Hello and welcome to the final episode of The Good Life as part of the Saddle podcast. We are the Sitcom Archive Deep Dive Overdrive and I am Alison Barton-Simmons.
Now then, I'm Eggs Benedict and I'm sad.
Why are you sad?
Because it's the last one.
I know, it's rubbish.
I'm discommoded, yeah.
You've what?
I'm discombobulated, or discommoded or whatever, because it's the last one and I'm feeling an emptiness now deep within my soul.
Me too. I have got a good life-shaped hole in my soul. A goat-shaped hole, perhaps.
Yeah, but we should, like we said in previous weeks, we shouldn't be sad because we will go on and do something else, and we'll talk about that at the end of this one. There will be more fun.
We've got, the world's our oyster now, isn't it, really? We've made a really good start with this one, but there's so much more out there, and it's quite exciting, isn't it? It's quite sad, but it's very exciting.
Yes, and I'm sure we'll be able to hark back to The Good Life and draw comparisons in the future. And Absolutely. It's not going to stop me rewatching them again and again and again.
No, exactly. So we are here at the second of the specials. This is the royal, it's like a royal command performance, isn't it, of The Good Life for the Queen and Prince Philip in 1978. And apparently this was to help raise money to send the British team to the Commonwealth Games.
Really? I didn't know that. I just thought the Queen just said, I thought she had more power in the 70s. She's like, let's sit down to watch A Good Life. It's not on, Lizzie. Well, it fucking will be on. I'll get me one now.
Get me one.
Yeah, which I didn't realise.
That was part of it, I think. However, I did hear as well that when the Queen was there at the recording, she was given some flowers by Felicity Kendall's son. And when staff, whoever the staff were, told her this is Felicity Kendall's son, the Queen went, "Who's Felicity Kendall?" So she can't be that much of a fan if she didn't know who the star was.
Unless she's like one of them idiots who thinks that everyone on Corrie is like actual person.
Actual people in a box in the front room.
Yeah. Do you mean Barbara Good?
That's it, they just used the wrong name.
Well, why is this child not called Good? Why did it not approach me in a rotary cultivator? She might be a bit simple.
This is the book ending of The Good Life, with this extra special that we are going to tear apart and take a deep dive through.
Yeah, we got lots to get through, actually, because as well as being the final one, it's an extra long one, because before the episode starts properly, you've got a bunch of sort of nonsense while the Queen and Prince Philip arrive, and there's a load of footage in the studio of them meeting the cast and all that sort of stuff, and at the end as well. And as well as that, of course, we've got our usual silliness and MVP and Fashion Corner, and we'll announce the winner of the MVP this week.
I'm very excited. I'm glad I don't know, because I don't want to be swayed by sort of voting for a winner just for the sake of it.
I was going to say something, but I won't then. I'll leave it till later.
Yeah, don't hint. I don't know. I want to wait and see.
So before we actually get stuck into this extra long episode with the Queen and Prince Philip arriving, etc., etc., I did a few anagrams last week of... Who did I do anagrams of? I can't remember.
It was Penelope Keith. Or was it Margot Ledbetter that you did them of?
Margot Ledbetter. Well, I found a bunch of other anagrams that I quite liked. Penelope Keith, she is keen tipple-ho.
Yep.
And she is keen for tipple, though she isn't a hoe.
She's no hoe.
Peep Honk Elite. And we've got...
Is that Penelope Keith as well?
Again, yeah. Penelope Keith. And one last one. Hot Penal Peak.
Oh, that just sounds awful.
No, it's not so great, is it? Felicity Kendall, she's the fine tickle lady.
Yes, she is.
But she's also kill yet fancied.
Ooh.
So that could be like a stalker.
It could. These are quite relevant, aren't they?
Ladylike infect. She infects us all with her ladylike.
She does.
Lay in cleft dyke. Maybe nuts, no. And one also for the lesbian community, nail flicked yet.
Oh.
So maybe if you fancy Felicity, you've had a little flick. I don't know.
Saucy. Very saucy.
And then finally, I've got... Oh, no, not finally. Yes, finally. I've got some for Paul Eddington, which are quite relevant as well. Unpainted gold.
Oh, and he is.
Yeah. He's not
flashy, but inside.
Not flamboyant, but he's gold, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Lounge Pint Dad.
Of gin.
Well, possibly. He's the type of person who would have a lounge pint.
Yes, he would. I like lounge pint.
And then my favourite is Add Opulent Gin.
It never is. Is that really one of them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Or actually, no, my favourite is Loud Panted Gin. Because he has got loud pants.
Oh my God. These are very... Did you have to put in any other words to sort of describe these people? Or is that what has been thrown out?
I'm embarrassed to admit, I added in his letters and then I trawled through about 2,000 anagrams to find them.
To find appropriate ones.
Yeah, because I'm sad.
Brilliant, though.
I'm a saddo.
Oh, they're really good. I like loud panted gin.
So relevant, isn't it?
Wow.
Less so Hot Penile Peak for Penelope.
I'm glad, yeah. Although we don't know, do we? We don't know what went on behind that parlour door with the stockings.
So one of us had the idea, it might have been you, it might have been me, I can't even remember, to rank our favourite 3 episodes of The Good Life.
Yes.
Was it your idea? I think
it was my idea, yeah. Yeah.
So have you taken all 30 episodes and decided what your top 3 are, Al?
Yeah, my number 1 I had anyway. I knew what my number 1 was.
Well, go from 3 to 1 like you do in the charts. Come on, build the suspension.
Okay, in third place for me is The Happy Event, which is the episode with the pig runt and the oxygen dash and the weird policeman.
Yeah,
which I did enjoy. I did enjoy that. I enjoyed the fact that they all worked together in order to save this little pig's life. The weird policeman who just appeared and was very, very concerned and ringing back to the station about the state of the pig. But it was just it was one of those episodes that was tied up in a neat bow at the end, and everything was all right. And I like that. I do. It like also
that one brought out the best in all the characters as well as I recall.
It did, and it was very funny. It was really, really funny. I think that was the episode as well where Jerry shouts "Shut up" to.
Indeed, it is
to Margot, which it still makes me laugh now. Oh, my second favourite episode is Mr. Fix It, which is the one with Mr. Coles, the journalist.
You've got a right bloody lady boner for this fella, haven't you?
It is because of Mr. Coles' reaction to the Peapod wine, which I still think is one of my favourite ever moments in the series. I know that it's nothing to do with the 4 characters, but just his reaction to that Peapod wine, and just the Peapod wine as a character in itself, it made me smile. It really did. And my number 1 spot,
build attention,
is Mutiny.
Is it?
It is, where Margot plays Maria in The Sound of Music, but goes on stage absolutely frantic and sings songs from West Side Story.
Yes, that is a good one.
It is a good one. The hysterics, the flowers, the shouting to the little kid that comes in through the door, and just
you ghastly child.
Yeah, everything about it. I love that episode. It was the one that I think that made me laugh the loudest and the longest. So, those are my 3.
I do like a line in that one as well. It's tat tat tat.
Yes,
that's a great line.
It is. It's wonderful. So go on then. Tell me yours.
Well, I'm surprised that some of mine didn't make yours as well. However, I will say that Mutiny and The Happy Event narrowly missed out on my top 3.
Did they?
They nearly got in at third place, both of them. But third place for me was Silly But It's Fun, the last one we did.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Which is a lovely Christmassy episode, and I think the outpouring on Twitter when it was shown recently shows how much everyone loves it.
I kept that one as like an extra. I didn't include that in my decision making.
I won't talk too much about it because we talked about it last week in great depth, didn't we? But it's a belter, isn't it? It's a great episode.
Definitely.
And my second favourite was actually I Talk to the Trees.
Oh, right. With Mr. What's he called? Mr.
Waitley.
Mr. Wembley, I was going to call him then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think there's some really, really funny scenes that Penelope Keith and Richard Briers have great fun with in that one.
Yes.
And there's also Margot's magnificence in politicking Dolly Mountchaft out of the Music Society and getting her own way in it. Just the dynamic between all the characters is great in that one.
It was wonderful, yeah, it was.
And there's pampas grass in it as well.
There is. That scene with Jerry where he's waiting for Margot to come downstairs and he's massively uncomfortable is a great scene.
Yeah, and he stares right at the pampas grass while all these people are looking nervous. I can't help thinking that they knew what they were doing there.
Yeah. We just didn't see the bit with the keys, the car keys.
And my number one?
Go on.
Can you guess what my number one is?
Is it the one where Margot falls in the sou'wester in the garden?
No, it's the windbreak. The windbreak wall.
The windbreak. All right.
20 minutes of nothing in particular, but then 10 minutes of brilliance, like we said when we deep dive that episode. I just think that 10 minutes of television where they're all drunk is just perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess it probably shouldn't be number one because 20 minutes of it was filler, no killer. It
was all leading up to that scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, like the Suit Yourself was a bit like that, where it was all set up towards the just reveal of the Nettle suit. But it's so well done that the final act, if you like, raises it above all the other episodes for me.
Of course, it's like with the payoff, isn't it, of waiting for it.
Yeah.
And if you'd not seen it before, you wouldn't know what was coming, I don't think, in either of those episodes. So
no, it's I also just love the fact that it humanises Margot so much, that one that I picked, with her lack of sense of humour and her vulnerability. Just a perfect episode from Penelope Keith, that one. It's interesting that we both came out with 3 different episodes.
Different ones, yeah, absolutely. But I can appreciate why you've chosen those 3 as well.
Yes, and vice versa.
There's a lot to choose from.
There's not many. Well, there's no stinkers. There's some quite average ones, like the one we're going to do right now.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's all right. It's something to talk about, and it's...
Of course it is.
Probably it's about time we got stuck into it, do you think?
Let's get going.
Well, one quick reminder. You can watch this episode on Dailymotion, and if you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, we tweet out links to where you can watch it. So you can catch up on what exactly went on in this episode before we pull it apart. I didn't really need to say it, did I? We've not been saying it lately.
Have we not?
I think we've just given up. We figured if you can't fucking work it out for yourself, then you might as well clear off. So anyway, here we go.
Dailymotion.
Yes, Dailymotion. Go and check it out.
So this is the special command performance of The Good Life, and the episode that we're going to look at is called When I'm 65.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So unusually, we are not starting in the Good's Kitchen with this episode. We are starting at Television Centre, the big BBC hotspot in London, to see the arrival of the Queen and Prince Philip. It's very weird. It's weird. You can't even sort of think that it is an episode of The Good Life at the start.
No, it's a very, very odd start, isn't it?
It really is.
You just get the view of the exterior of Television Centre, and then it pans down, and you've got the voice of this sort of very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's
a received pronunciation announcer, isn't he? That's sort of narrating.
Commentating.
Yeah, he is commentating. Yeah, he's commentating.
Yeah.
The arrival of the Queen and Prince Philip to watch an episode of The Good Life. That's pretty much the premise, isn't it?
And he says, a magnificent Jubilee Rolls Royce arrives. And I just thought, it looks like a fucking black cab to me.
Yeah, it is. It just is. Yeah.
I think Big Phil's been outside going, whistling, beckoning one over.
And then we see the Queen and Prince Philip enter Television Centre to be greeted by all the BBC bigwigs. And they make a point, it's quite weird, they make a point of saying like it's the chairman of the board, the Director General and his wife, Mrs. Director General, or whatever her name was. And it just feels very unnecessary and crawling and...
deferential, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it just seems unnecessary. However, obviously, this is how they wanted to play it. They were recording an extra episode of The Good Life for the Queen, so they've made quite a big deal of the arrival.
Well, he's almost doing your job for you, this commentator, because he starts thinking he's in Fashion Corner and starts talking about what the Queen's wearing.
He really is sort of spreading himself quite thinly, and and doing all the parts. So he's announcing the arrival of the Queen, and they get shown to the seats while there's all other people sat there in the audience. So it's like a live audience. The way that they've done it is they've recorded already the outside bits of the show, but all the interior bits that are sort of surrounding the Goods kitchen and the Leadbetter's parlour are all going to be filmed in front of a live studio audience that on this occasion has part of the royal family sat amongst them.
Yeah, seeing the sets from the perspective of the audience, because we're seeing the sets from a distance pulled back so we can see that they are just sets, aren't we?
Yeah, that was which
is weird.
Quite unusual, weren't it, to actually see the rooms as an audience would see them sat watching it being filmed. And I don't know, they look bigger than I anticipated. They don't look as homey and cosy as, and I know they're not real, but it felt quite privileged seeing them as they were.
Yeah.
I think.
It's one of those things I'd like to jump in my time machine and be in the audience.
Yeah, that'd be ace, wouldn't it?
That floor manager with a monobrow, though.
Brian.
Who came on.
Brian Jones.
I knew you'd know his name. He, well, for one, he couldn't be asked with any health and safety spiel. He's like, right, here we go, let's crack on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he introduces all of those. No, fuck that. It's like if, run for your... He doesn't even bother. It's very 70s. But then he introduces all of the sets, which I thought was a bit weird. Because if you watch The Good Life, you know what the Goods kitchen looks like. And then he mentions... What also drew my attention is when he mentioned Margot Ledbetter's lounge or living room, or however he said it, just the mere mention of her name drew an affectionate chuckle from the audience. Did you notice?
I did, yeah. Is that... I don't know, what do you think? It was just excitement about them seeing it being filmed? I think
just she's such a loved character.
Yeah.
That they were like buzzing with, anticipation, I guess.
I think I would have done as well. I'd have tittered. Richard Briers, when they get introduced onto the stage, Richard Briers comes out and speaks to the audience as well.
As the artist. Yeah. Here's the artist, Richard Briers. I thought, that's very grandiose for the 70s.
Yeah. So he comes out, speaks to the audience. There's a mention of Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
Which is a very 70s...
You raised your eyebrows at that, didn't you? If you had any.
I tried. I had to lift them up manually. Jimmy Savile, they've been writing to Jimmy Savile each week in order to get this done, and apparently Jim works very hard. It's just, it never sits well, does it?
I bet they wish they could airbrush that one.
I know,
history.
Yeah. Oh dear. After Richard Briers, they then wheel out the remaining cast, headed by George Cole, who has about 10 seconds on screen in this episode. But obviously, he must have been quite a name around that time, so he's there as the head of the troop for this week.
I mean, was he ever young? He already looked.
He always looked like that.
Yeah.
Never looked any different.
Good at what he did, though, even though he only had a very small cameo.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. He's got that kind of voice, I think. Next, Paul Eddington, who they describe as being suave and elegant, and you can't argue with that.
No.
Penelope Keith.
She marches on.
She's you can tell she's up for it. She's very excited, I think, about the prospect.
Yeah. And
the wonderful little woman, the delicious Felicity Kendall, is how he describes her, which I think is she looks very happy as well. She's always very smiley.
They're all living on her nerves, I think, especially if you've watched the documentary that was on over Christmas when they talk about it. You can tell that they were very... In fact, doesn't Richard Briers make a joke that he's now going for a quick shake?
Yeah, yes he did.
And I thought, bloody hell, that's a bit...
I know,
took me a minute.
Just...
Does the Queen really need to know that?
Oversharing, Richard Briers. I'll tell you what I did think was quite amusing and very sort of 70s about seeing all this, that the stage crew were all in shirt and ties and suits. They looked very, very uncomfortable and just not dressed for the occasion, not dressed for the job. Do you think they dressed like that all the time, or was that just because the Queen was there?
Well, everything was done up to the max, I think. I mean, they'd created a special box for her, hadn't they, in the studio? It was just a load of nonsense, really.
Yeah. And then we start. The episode starts as it normally would do. In the same way with the credits. This was actually on TV in June 1978 to an audience of 14.4 million, which is not the highest rating episode, but it's still up there, isn't it? 14.4 is quite an achievement.
Yeah, well, the monobrowed floor manager boasts, doesn't he, that they reached 20 million at its peak.
Yeah. I think even,
at one point.
21 million I think was the highest, that's huge. Wow. What a huge proportion of the country watching that at one time.
Yeah, and you've got to bear in mind as well that the population was a lot less than it is now because of the way we've grown exponentially over the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah. So into the episode, we are in Margot and Jerry's drawing room. I think that's what Brian Jones called it, the drawing room. We've been calling it a living room and a lounge, parlour, the drawing room.
Well, actually, she called it a drawing room herself when she got the work in the Windbreak episode when she ordered the fella in. I will see you in my drawing room.
Oh, okay. Tom and Barbara come marching in through the patio doors with Japanese sleeping blocks. I don't know whether these have been made, but have they been made by the goods? These Japanese sleeping blocks?
I think Tom's been handy and made them for her. Yeah.
They've got Japanese visitors coming. It's Mr. and Mrs. Yashimoto from Kyoto that are coming over. And there's still confusion over whether the Yashimotos will want to sleep in beds or on Japanese sleeping blocks. So Margot's just got them handy so she can just whip them out at a moment's notice. To surprise the Japanese visitors.
Should they need them, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Tom decides, doesn't he, to demo how these Japanese sleeping blocks work.
Yeah.
And then he says to Barbara, "Now write down," in a sort of mock Chinese accent.
Yeah.
But at that point, my hearing tuned in to hear. I'm bound to hear Prince Philip guffawing at that. I think he's going to love that.
Oh my God, yeah.
He's such a racist old bastard, isn't he?
Oh, dear me.
But would you sleep on one of those Japanese, whatever they're called, sleeping blocks?
Are they for putting under your neck?
Yeah, but they're so high.
Right. Do you know what? For Christmas, I bought Johnny they're like an acupressure mat that have got little needles sticking up through it, and you get a pillow with it, which is quite reminiscent of the Japanese sleeping block, and you put it under your neck, and then it's got loads of pricky things that stick into your neck. Kind of like plastic, not like metal ones, like little plastic needles.
Smackhead pillow.
Yeah, you just keep forcing your head into it, and it's supposed to help and relieve pressure. And I used it yesterday. Good. And my headache's gone.
Oh, that's good.
I also took copious amounts of painkillers, which also probably helped. So I don't know. It's probably not an even test, but yeah, there's sort of things that are a modern day equivalent, perhaps.
They look to me like they'd knacker up my Gregory Peck. To be honest,
yeah,
they look too steep, you know. Anyway, each to their own. If this Mr. Nakamoto, whatever his name is,
Yashimoto
wants them, Yashimoto, bloody hell,
they're there.
I'm as bad as Big Phil, aren't they?
That's it. I think it's more to do with the fact that Margot can be prepared and go, "Here, I have them ready waiting for you. I am so well informed about your culture." Because she loves that, doesn't she? She loves that.
She's very prepared. A good executive's wife.
She is. Jerry's not in this scene. Jerry is away in the study being examined by a doctor because the Ledbetters are busy sorting out their life insurance policies now that Jerry's taken on the role of Sir, and Jerry needs to have lots of tests, a battery of tests, in order to sort out his policies that he's got.
Well, it's his retirement annuities, and I think life insurance worked. I think all insurance, but particularly life insurance, worked very differently. I think if you were lucky enough to live to a certain age and not die, you got some kickback. And now insurance policies don't work like that anymore, do they?
No.
The annuities. You're just basically tough shit. We won the bet.
Yeah,
basically
exactly.
The attitude that the companies take.
Margot's very happy about this prospect as it means that she can find out that Jerry's fit and healthy and that he's well, and that the Ledbetters are covered. They're covered financially for the future, that makes Margot very happy.
Yes, although it doesn't pan out that Jerry is very well.
No, apparently, the only thing that's keeping him upright is his hardened arteries, as Tom says. So he knows that he's enjoyed the good life. Oh, there we go. Hey! The good life. He's enjoying the good life.
You said that without even meaning it, didn't you?
No, I just said it. He's enjoying the good life, and perhaps might need to just wind it in a little bit.
The doctor's told him he's abusing his system in just about every way possible.
Well, yeah,
which
I think he knows
makes
that.
you think, what else is he doing? You know, we know about his gin. Tom says he drinks 5 bottles of gin a day, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't. But is he also into, you know, crack cocaine?
Maybe.
Poppers?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's he doing?
Riddled with STIs.
Yeah. Who knows what's going on? But he's abused his body.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know how in-depth the actual medical tests went.
No, he's just worried though, isn't he? And he's getting Tom is teasing him and being totally unsympathetic in the way that he is. And in fact, he even predicts Jerry's early death, doesn't he?
Oh.
Because he's just heartless. And then Margot just says to Barbara, take Tom home, please.
Yes, yeah. Tom does say, when you're dying, can I have your golf clubs? Which is very,
arsehole.
Yeah. Yeah. However, next we see Tom and Barbara in their kitchen, and they're, first of all, discussing one of the chickens that's not laid. And
Glenda.
Yeah, Barbara's a bit concerned that the cockerel is a little bit too Oliver Reed-like, and that Glenda needs whining and dining. And that's the issue.
Yeah, I think she's applying human attributes to her poultry here, because I don't think it's that Lennon isn't Glenda's type, which is really what
No,
Barbara
I don't think it works like that, does it? In chicken land.
But Tom's still maudlin at this point, isn't he? He's still sort of doom and gloom and predicting his own demise now.
Yeah, there's concern that because of the lifestyle that the Goods have decided to follow, the self-sustainability lifestyle, doesn't allow for putting much aside for the future. They're not able to save anything. And then, do you think this is something that's only just hit them? Or do you think that they've thought about this before and now they're just being faced with it and have to think about it? Because they must know that having no income must mean there's no extras, there's nothing to put to one side.
A lot of people have just focused on living in the moment.
Yeah.
I have only recently started thinking about pensions and stuff myself, and I'm mid-40s, you know?
Yeah.
I think Tom is one of those guys who just gets caught up with his ideas, and you see this later when he goes to the bank as well. He just doesn't know how the real world functions.
No.
He does predict that his national insurance stamps won't be sufficient, and no doubt that is correct.
Yes, that's going to be factual.
History has proven that to be correct, I think. But as soon as their bodies pack in, they're financially screwed, so he needs a plan, doesn't he?
Exactly. They rely on their health and fitness in order to continue what they're doing, don't they?
They wouldn't have had such a thing as like income protection for illness as well, probably. I don't think that was an insurance policy that existed back then, was
probably
it?
not. Probably not. This scene made me laugh though, because as Tom's talking, Barbara's sewing. She's sewing like a patchwork quilt, which she puts over his knees while he's still talking. And by the time he's finished chatting away, he realises that he looks like an old man in an old folks home.
Yes, and that's how he's acting too.
Don't panic, Margot!
I'm not panicking. I'm awaiting instruction.
Oh, do let's sit down.
We're then outside on the street. I like these outside shots. This must be one of the scenes that was filmed prior to the Queen and Prince Philip watching the live show. They're outside, arriving home on the rotary cultivator, only to pass Jerry and Margot running. I had to rewind this to see whether it was Margot running or not, because it just seemed such a juxtaposition of things that my head nearly fell off. Because I thought, what?
But do you know what I did as well?
What is
I
she
flipped
doing?
it back and thought, was that Margot running?
Yeah.
Especially just because you don't see a dress. In fact, all other characters, I'm sure you'll say this in Fashion Corner, they're dressed slightly differently than they usually are, I think.
Yeah, I felt that we'd shifted on an edge almost. We'd moved away from the 70s feel, and we were entering a new age.
I wonder if because the show was supposed to have ended, whether some of the costumes had been gotten rid of. Actually,
maybe there was
that was the case.
But I don't think she would. Considering the storyline, I don't think that it was out of character for her to be. She had all the gear. Let's face it, she had
all the gear, but no idea.
Matching tracksuit and the visor, because everybody's got to run in a see-through plastic visor in the 70s and 80s. Margot is very supportive of Jerry and his new regime. fitness
Yes.
regime. She wants him to be as fit and healthy as possible. I think in order to keep going to work and making more money. But obviously she's got care over his health too. And they've bought loads of expensive home exercise equipment, which is like a big thing in the 70s and 80s. Rowing machines and exercise bikes were in lots of spare rooms, having clothes hung over them in the 70s and 80s.
It was a new thing, sort of, that came in from America, possibly.
Yeah.
But I think this is typical of Leadbetters. They don't do things by half. We're going to get fit, so we'll buy an entire home gym, basically.
Yes.
And matching outfits.
To solve one problem, yeah. They go for the whole hog, don't they? Every time. And I think I've said before about Margot, she seems to have a uniform for every version of Margot that exists. And this is the new uniform, isn't it? We've got a matching trackie, all the equipment at home, and it just seems like this is a very Leadbetter thing to do, to fill your house full of things in order to throw money at the problem, almost.
Yeah, fair. That's a fair comment.
Tom tightens his pants and lifts at a weightlifting bar with no weights on in order to prove that he is equally as fit as Jerry is aiming to be. Which is just weird behaviour.
Weird behaviour. You'd just be like, oh, I can't wait to get rid of this dickhead.
Yeah.
If you had someone like that in your house.
The issue is that Jerry's unfit and needs to get fitter, but Tom's there, like, fucking puffing his chest out and look at me, I'm already. He's not, though. Just accept it.
Yeah, well, he even makes reference to Jerry's weight, despite the fact that he's the one with the potbelly. I mean, it's just weird.
It is,
isn't
it?
He didn't write, obviously that was the writer's gaff, I think. They shouldn't have put that in, really, but...
The rest of the equipment is coming next week. There's more stuff to come. But you don't know where they're going to put it.
What did you think, though, of Barbara having a go on the old exercise bike?
Oh, that made me laugh. That did make me laugh.
It was weird the way that she was... I don't know if the exercise bike was supposed to work this way, but the handlebars came towards her and...
Yeah.
It reminded me more of when you see, like, those old Victorian sex machines.
I think it was supposed to do that, like you're supposed to like push and pull with your arms.
Yeah.
But maybe it had just not been set up properly yet, and it had run away with itself. There's jokes about a sauna coming later. Maybe in the 70s and 80s they associated like health and fitness and then going in the sauna afterwards. But Tom just takes it a bit too far and talks about Margot rolling in the snow and then Jerry bashing her with branches, like it was a proper sauna.
I reckon that was again a joke that probably worked a lot better at the time, because that would have been the perception of saunas in ski lodges rather than something that you get in every bloody Copthorne hotel.
Exactly,
these days, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even just like gyms. A lot of gyms even have them. They're just de rigueur now, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. At the time, it would have been a very specific joke, I suppose. Tom takes a trip down to the bank to see George Cole as the bank manager in order to ask for some provision for his old age and what he can do about it. He asks George Cole, Mr. Downs, can you give me £2,000 a year until I die? That's what he's hoping for, which is very, very unlikely.
Tom's trying to charm the bank manager, really, and I thought that was, well, at least it seems like he is at first, and that seemed to be indicative of the different approach. Nowadays, the banks want you.
Yeah.
As long as you've got the means, they want your custom, they want your business, as long as you've got the means, which ultimately it turns out Tom doesn't. But back then, I mean, my parents and Ali's parents have said, when we wanted a mortgage, we had to get done up in our suit and go and impress the bank manager. Now you just rock up in your t-shirt, don't you? As long as you've got the paperwork to show that you've got the money coming in, they can't fall over themselves quick enough to give you a loan.
That's it. It was all about the image, wasn't it? In order to sort of persuade someone that you were, rather than it being numbers down on paper, it was how you were perceived, which is quite weird, isn't it? And I don't like things like that. I don't like having to jump through hoops and do the right dance in order to get what you need as a service. Like when you go for a car, if you go to like a car garage and they keep going away and coming back with a different figure just because you're charming them. I don't like that. I find that really, it's quite insulting really, that you've got to do that.
It's tedious, isn't it? You just go, can we just skip this shit where you give me a fair price and I pay a fair price?
Exactly.
And then we both go away happy rather than doing this stupid dance.
Yeah.
And you acting like a complete cock and me going home pissed off in a bad mood, even though I should be happy because I've just bought a car.
Yeah. And you go and pretending that you're going asking somebody that's not there.
Yeah.
Just find it really, it's quite an insulting thing. But in the 70s, in banks, that's how the dance was done.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no provision for their old age.
But Tom's pissed poor maths. The irony is that his house would be well worth the 77,000 by the time he died at 85, would be about now.
Yeah.
So his house would have been worth far more than 77,000. That's the irony.
Absolutely,
that house
yeah.
in Surbiton, albeit it was filmed in Northwood, but if that very house was in Surbiton, what would it be worth? $1 million? £1 million pounds?
Yeah, I think so. Easy. In that area of London. Yeah.
So really, George Cole should have took that gamble.
I know. Ha! Serves you right, George Cole. Tom and Barbara, however, have got £3.87 in the bank, and Tom decides to withdraw £3 of it to get Barbara some flowers, which I think is quite a nice gesture.
Sweet.
In the kitchen, back at the Goods house, the flowers are in the vase, and Barbara says, listen, we've got years ahead of us. Who else is that lucky? She's quite sort of sentimental at the moment about all this.
Hmm. She's living in the now, isn't she? Like we said earlier.
The fact that they're looking so far ahead into the future, Barbara's just happy to think about the today, which is quite sweet and quite sensible, to be honest, as well.
Barbara actually threatens to murder Tom at one point here. Well, Tom says she'd be perfectly entitled to murder him, and I think that's probably the most sense he's ever spoken in all of these sort of 30 episodes. But then, sort of, she brings him out of this sort of maudlin mindset, and he fucking kicks her under the table. Like a schoolboy trying to woo a girl by being mean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just gives her a boot. And she just takes it with a laugh, and I'm like,
no.
Boot me under the table. Just stab you between the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or to put it in his words, I'll kick your head in.
Yeah. Abuse isn't love.
No. Different hashtag, different times. We'll use that one more time in our last episode.
Yeah. Jerry walks into the kitchen, as often happens, and interrupts their violent tomfoolery. He needs to borrow a spanner. The wall bars have arrived. Oh my God. Where the hell are they going to put these? The wall bars have arrived and he needs to fit them. And Tom and Jerry end up in some weird muscle comparing contest. It all gets a bit...
Just macho bravado, isn't it? Between two fairly pathetic middle-aged fools bragging about being fitter than one another.
Yeah. But Jerry challenges Tom to a run now that Jerry's sort of on the literal treadmill of training. He challenges Tom to a run. Margot says that she's not going to... Is Margot here at this point?
She's come in and
she's
clearly getting a kick off the fact that they're... I think it sexually excites her that Jerry's showing some masculinity and macho behaviour.
She does like this. She does like this. She says that she's not going to stop them from competing because she considers it something that it's very British and very fine. So she's going to allow this.
She just likes the testosterone flying around, in my opinion.
I think she does.
But she also gets into the competitive spirit, which we saw in the last episode with the Christmas games, because she says to Tom, "Your frame borders on corpulent." Yes,
indeed. Yes, indeed.
And then that makes Barbara stand up for her man, and it's all very competitive. But
it is.
To my mind, I'm looking at this thinking, Jerry's clearly fitter than Tom physically to the naked eye. However, if you're going to believe sitcom world and the story that we've had so far, Tom should kick his ass because he's out there flogging his guts every day, isn't he?
Yeah,
he
manual labour. Yeah.
He should be a machine, really.
Yes. He doesn't look like a machine. He looks like a bit of a sagging machine.
Yeah. Probably because he lets Barbara do all the work. I bet she's got
but she's like an ox.
Yeah. And the other thing about this is that I am with Jerry in being fed up with Tom's mocking, because all he's done since Jerry found out that he's not unwell, but he needs to make changes rather than be supportive. He's just mocking him. So I don't blame him for getting on his high horse and going, "Come on then, prove it," you know.
Margot wants to talk tactics with Jerry. And they've got a plan for 10 a.m. in the morning. They're going to go for a run. So it's all very serious.
It is.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
The next scene, we're outside. Margot and Jerry are waiting for Tom to arrive, and Tom arrives. I'm going to talk about this in Fashion Corner. Tom arrives dressed.
His string vest.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. And I
You
know
said that with such passion.
I know
Jesus.
I know it's a comedy, but it just made me go, oh, what the hell? Tom and Jerry set off on the run, and it's all there's the music, the accompanying music sort of suggests that it's like they're all sort of like trying the hardest, and
But Jerry's got a stitch in no time.
yeah,
You see him holding himself, and he's only just gone off, and I
they've only
thought,
just set
bloody hell.
off. Oh,
Because at this point, I'm rooting for Jerry. I've got to be honest.
yeah, absolutely. They pass a couple that are sat in deck chairs, just taking in
In a
the
field.
sunshine in a field with nobody else.
But it wasn't exactly picturesque, was it? It just looked like a real dog shit where you walk your dog
Yeah.
field, and they're there, and it looks so 70s.
You can imagine sort of the power station like in the distance that they're sort of like looking over.
Yeah,
Just an odd scene.
breathing in the fumes from
I
the
know.
motorway.
Weird. But Tom and Jerry get tired quite quickly, and they're sweating and they're flailing about. They can't breathe, and they're having to like lean on lampposts. They then agree, in typical British sitcom style, to go to the pub, and off they go. They're outside a pub, and in they go.
Yeah, they can barely talk to each other, so we don't get the exposition of them going, let's sack this off for a pint, because they're just going,
Pub,
pint,
pub.
Yeah. Where's the nearest boozer? You're looking at him.
Yeah.
That type of thing, innit?
In they go. Margot and Barbara are both waiting at the finishing line with like a ribbon, and up rock Tom and Jerry passing the finishing line together, which is quite nice.
It's presumably a prearranged truce. We'll have this pint and possibly another pint and possibly a chaser,
yes,
and then we'll cross the line together, make it look genuine.
and Margot and Barbara are so happy to see them. However, there's a spanner in the works when a taxi turns up to tell them that they've left the wallet in the cab.
Yeah.
So not only have they gone to the boozer and had a couple of pints, they've also got a taxi home. So the run hasn't even taken place. So Margot at this point, who was all for it and was very excited, calls them cheaters and traitors. Tom and Jerry don't give a shit though. They just run off.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought Barbara would care either. It's the type of thing she'd just have gone toad at
Yeah,
to Tom, innit?
exactly. So yeah, they complete the run, but Margot's very cross.
It's it's another one of those schnarf endings, isn't it?
It is a bit of an anticlimax, I think.
Yeah. I'm sure that HRH got a giggle back in the studio.
I think so. Yeah.
To me, it's not canon because to me, I liked the fact that it ended when it ended in the previous two.
Yeah, this feels a bit of a shoehorned ending. It just felt a bit contrived, I think.
Yeah. It would have been fine sandwiched in between series 3 and 4.
Exactly.
Whereas the last one, it's just a bit weak. Yeah.
It just feels a bit weak. However, yeah, I get it, and it yeah.
Hell's bells!
But then we get the post-credits, don't we, after this, which is
We do.
more of the studio footage.
More of the Queen and Prince Philip leaving now. So we've got the opposite end of... Do you think they just came and sat and watched it and then got up and went?
Well, it looks that way.
It's edited to look like that, yeah. Prince Philip does a quick dash left while everybody else is coming out on the right, on the other side. Maybe he was desperate to get going.
Maybe saw a man of colour and was avoiding him.
They
They
go and meet the BBC staff and cast, and they're taken along the line, and there's curtsying and handshaking. And then you see, as the Queen's meeting some member of the BBC bigwig group, Prince Philip's in the background, and people are like laughing around him, and you think, oh God, I wonder what he said.
What's he doing?
What's he said?
Is he shaking Felicity Kendall's hand, telling her he'd love to give her one or something?
Oh my God. You just think, whatever it is, it's likely to be massively inappropriate.
Yeah. You got all these boring introductions, and then the commentator goes, there's George Cole. He made a jolly good bank manager, didn't he? I thought, fuck it, shut up. You are adding no value whatsoever, you silly old sod.
It just, that commentary was just, it just felt so weird. It was weird watching an episode of The Good Life with that sort of bookending.
Yeah. It was
The
just
last ever
nonsense.
episode. Very weird. And then they go. Prince Philip and the Queen get back in the cab. They find Jerry's wallet.
He's had the meter running, hasn't he? He's had the meter running the whole time.
And then go. And then they run home.
Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? What a weird end to a great TV show.
Yeah, it is.
It is a shame we couldn't hear those conversations between the Queen and the cast. I would have liked to have known
I would
what
too.
they were saying.
That'd have been more interesting than the announcer.
Yeah, he was maybe there to mask what they were saying, because maybe you're not supposed to ever hear the Queen's private remarks.
Private chats.
Sure.
Oh, God, why?
I'd have also loved to have seen the outtakes from this episode, because they were probably so nervous there would have been a few.
I think there'd have been loads of gaffs, not guffs.
Well, maybe someone guffed and that was a gaff.
Yes, a guff gaff.
Imagine guffing in front of the Queen. Oh dear.
Do you not get your head cut off for that?
Is that a treasonous offence, is it?
Possibly.
I've never guffed in front of the Queen. I wouldn't know.
No, me neither. I don't want to test it.
I was in a training meeting once years ago when I was when I was back in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And it was such a boring training meeting, and a third party trainer had been brought in. Sorry, this is a bit of a boring story.
No.
But I drifted off and not really. When I was awake, but I just forgot where I was, and I just let out this fucking ripper. Just let it go. Just a massive, you know, like when you sat on wood and it amplifies it.
Yeah, like at primary school.
Yeah, and then I just suddenly realised where I was. You know, so I just sort of didn't make eye contact. I was trying to just look down at my thing, and then I just at my peripheral vision, I just saw like one of my colleagues' heads just go into view as he sort of looked down at me, going, grinning at me.
Ace.
And then the trainer had to stop and start going, well, I think we best all acknowledge what just happened. And I was like,
oh no!
I had to leave the room. And then
you?
every time I tried to walk back in, I caught someone's eye and had to do like a 360 and leave.
Yeah.
So it made me look so unprofessional. But when you get the hysterics, people don't realise if you don't suffer from it. You just cannot stop.
Yes. Yeah.
Imagine that in front of the Queen. Imagine if like Felicity
God.
Kendall had...
Just couldn't stop laughing.
Anyway, there we go. Enough about my flatulence of the noughties. Do you want to do Fashion Corner before we do MVP, given that this is going to be the final MVP?
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's go.
This is going to be a bonus Fashion Corner, isn't it? Because we're going to, presumably, going to talk about the Queen and Big Phil and everyone, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's go there and find out then.
Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner. Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner.
Well, the announcer does part of the job for me this week, as he describes what the Queen's got on as she comes through the door of Television Centre. And she's in a finely pleated chiffon dress with ruffled sleeves and fine pink flower buds, as he describes it. And he's very correct. She is indeed in an outfit.
He doesn't have a patch on you, El.
No, I don't think so. He don't.
If you're ever ill, I might track him down.
Get him to come in and
But no, he's not as good as you.
Prince Philip's very very soberly dressed in a very smart suit.
He's probably
the audience, because everyone's in their finery, aren't they? In the audience, they must have been. The invite must have said, dress up to the nines because the Queen's coming. And I find that when I see audiences in the 70s, it's very sort of block colour. Nobody's in any kind of designs or prints, which doesn't really reflect Fashion Corner that we've talked about throughout these 4 series, because Margot has been in all sorts of designs, but I just find that it's like all block colours of like pink or green or lilac.
It was a very dark green, wasn't it, front
Yeah.
left? And she stood out just because it looked dreadful.
Yeah.
To me. Well,
Yeah.
to me it did. But...
And they've all got hats as well, sort of hats and like veil-y bits and pieces, fascinators as you'd call them today. They're all proper dressed up like they go into a wedding.
I like the hen-dos at Aintree.
Exactly,
Women-
yeah,
Ladies'
it's Ladies'
Day
Day.
at Aintree.
It's just Ladies' Day, but in the 70s.
And without being pissed and acting up and flashing your fanny.
Exactly. I'm hoping so, anyway. I don't know. Maybe if you do rewind and pause, you might find some...
I'd love it if someone was in the audience that day who was listening could let us know if you were
There's
on
like
a
a
bender
Sharon-
at the same time.
A Sharon Stone cross-legged moment. Ooh.
From a Madge.
Oh! I was going to do
Madge's fudge.
No, I was going to do that and I stopped.
Yes, well, I don't have any filter. If it's in my head, it's coming out
It's
my
coming
mouth.
out. That's what
Like
she
a
said.
minge.
I think we did sort of hint earlier about the fashion in this episode. This is mid-1978, and you can almost see the move on from the sort of 70s fashion that we've seen throughout The Good Life so far. It's almost moving into a more... These are clothes that I can imagine my mum picking me up from primary school wearing.
Right.
It was like big buttons, knitwear. I think in there's one of the earlier scenes where we see Margot and she's got this white knitted jumper on with red trousers, and it's got like big buttons and like a rosette on it, and I can sort of picture my mum buying something like that from CNA in the 80s.
Yeah.
So we are definitely moving on. Jerry, we don't see the Burberry slacks in his outfit early on in this episode. However, he's looking very smart. He's got like a navy jacket, roll neck sweater, which we've seen quite a lot of, and checked slacks. They're not the Burberry slacks though, so maybe he's not been to the Chelsea that day.
Well, I think Margot does actually mention football hooligans in this one, doesn't she?
Well, maybe that's why he's not worn the trousers, just to...
She's got wise to it.
Yeah,
Jerry,
have it. Yeah.
You're not going there anymore. That type of thing.
Yep. Barbara, we've talked about the simplicity of the Barbara outfit and costume that we sort of see re-emerging episode after episode, but in this episode she's got like pumps and jeans and a t-shirt on, which again very subtly is moving away from the 70s feel of what she'd had on previously, but she's just dead cute. Again, she doesn't really need to rock much in order to she rocks the Barbara costume, I think, does Felicity Kendall, whatever it is that they throw at her. But it is decidedly more of an 80s style than the 70s style, I think. We spoke about Margot having all the gear. So when she's going out running with Jerry, she's there in like a full-on navy tracksuit, got like red piping, like red trimming, and she's got the 80s red plastic see-through visor on, which I in my head I equate to that move towards the early 80s. But the visor, I don't know what's that about. What?
Well, they were definitely in fashion all through the 80s,
They
and
were.
I never really got it.
But they did
either.
nothing. It's not like it doesn't mask anything or hide anything.
They weren't
It's just
polarised, were they? Or
No,
whatever the
it was
word
just
is.
a piece of plastic on your head. Yeah. Very odd. Barbara has a top on in this episode, which it's like a, not just a cut and shut top, it's like a cut and a shut and a cut and a shut and a cut and a shut all over it. It's like she's taken all pieces of her old clothes and made a t-shirt out of everything that she owns with jeans. But this looks like next level self-sufficiency in terms of clothing. It's not just an old top that she's had, it's literally been made out of everything that she's owned previously. Margot has, later on in this scene, a belted dress in like a stone colour. It's quite a muted sort of shade, but again looking amazing. And then at the start of the race we see her in this beautiful green cape top with a neckerchief and sunglasses. And her hair in this episode is lovely. We're moving away from that sort of lacquered, sticky up old lady hair to looking a bit younger.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. The style does de-age
It's weird
her.
because To the Man Born started, a year later? And
Yeah.
I think she looks significantly older in that. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they did between this and then.
Yeah. She looks wonderful. The green cape top is fab. And yeah, I want to mention Tom in Fashion Corner, unfortunately. He turns up for his run, this big run that he's doing, in order to convince Margot and Jerry that he's fitter than than Jerry, sorry. He's in shorts, which are like cut-offs, a string vest, a visor, and work shoes. So I don't know at what point he thought that he was in for the win. Really, I don't know.
He's sort of dressed like Rabsy Nesbitt a bit, isn't he?
It is like Rob C. Nesbitt, which I know it's there for comic value, and it is quite funny. But you just think, oh God, knowing this character as well as we do now, considering how much we've talked about him over the past few weeks, it just made me go, oh my God, what are you doing?
Do you think Richard Briers was like, oh God, I don't have to wear that, do I? Because it's not flattering to him, especially when he's covered in dripping with sweat. I would hate to wear it if I was acting in something. I'd think, oh God.
Yeah, and trying to run in work shoes as well. They look like they were too big for him as well. Too big work shoes, like going to the bins in your dad's work boots at home.
Well, it's consistent with the character though, because he can't afford to buy anything.
Exactly. But yeah,
He also earlier in the episode he was wearing t-shirts And we'd never seen Tom out of a shirt and jumper, had we?
Yeah,
he was
shirt and
wearing
jumper.
T-shirts. I guess, I don't know when T-shirts became commonplace, but maybe late 70s, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say so. The 70s. Yeah, I think so. But for like an older guy, I don't know. In fact, I think that's quite an unusual thing to see him in, isn't it?
Well, it's easy to forget that he's only supposed to be 43. In fact, probably Richard Bryce was only 43, I think.
Yeah, but when I think about sort of my dad in that time, I don't remember seeing my dad in a T-shirt very often. I don't know what he wore.
Probably relative to what your own parents wear. My dad wore T-shirts all the time.
Right, okay.
Yeah. But I just thought, like I said earlier, that a lot of the cast looked like they were wearing completely different wardrobe than the series proper. Even though it only ended 6 months prior.
It did feel like it had jumped on like an age a little bit.
Before we do the MVP, there was no tab.
Nope.
No oi tab. No soft porn in this one in front of her Madge.
Nope. It was very, very sort of
straight and
muted,
safe.
weren't it? It was, yeah.
No tit tab. The Queen had pokies, did you notice?
No!
No, she didn't.
No! No pokies.
No pokies from HRH. Now, MVP. Let's hear yours. Or do you want me to do mine first?
You go first.
Well, Big Phil played a blinder. Didn't seem to insult anyone.
We don't know, though. I think he did, probably, in the background.
I think, well, yes, he probably did, actually. So I'm going to give it to Barbara.
Okay.
Barbara is the one who pulls Tom back from the abyss with his obsession about death. She's happy with what she's doing. She's helped make these things, the Japanese cushions for Margot. And really, I didn't think there was a lot of competition, personally, to Barbara in this episode on the basis that Tom is a dick as usual. He's ending as he started this run. Jerry's getting sucked into childishness with Tom. And Margot's just kind of there in this one. She doesn't do anything particularly special. So I think it's almost like a default MVP for Barbara this week for me.
Mine was Barbara as well.
Oh, okay.
It was, yeah. I think it was the scene, like you said, the scene where she's trying to keep it in the day rather than sort of projecting too far in the future, like Tom is. She's that voice of reason again, isn't she? Where she is convincing him that they are doing the right thing, despite the fact that she got caught up in it very early on because Tom wanted to do it. She's there as the voice of reason all along. When it starts to go off a little bit, and Tom's sort of head goes and starts to panic, she's the voice of reason, which is wonderful. I think she's great in this episode.
Well.
Oh wow, where does that take us to now then?
Oh, I actually thought that made a bigger difference than it did. I've just updated the master list. Shall I give it you in reverse order?
Yes, please.
Coming in joint last with 1 vote each. We've got Mr. Carter, your mate. We've got Harry the Leak Thief, and we've got Mr. Waitley.
Right.
I think 2 of those votes were from you and 1 was from me. Mr. Carter isn't your mate, is it? Mr. Coles is your mate. He got 2 votes. We both voted for him.
Who was Mr. Carter? Was that the Residents Association guy?
He is, yeah. The unstoppable neckerchief machine.
Yep.
So last place with 1 point each. Mr. Waitley, Harry the Leak Thief, Mr. Carter. Mr. Coles has got 2 votes. Yeah. Coming in last of the main cast, or 4th, we've actually got Barbara with 11 votes.
Right.
I thought she was going to be drawing level with Tom, who got 12 votes, but no, he's just pipped her with 12. And then coming in joint top with 16 votes each, Margot and Jerry.
Oh, well, that's fair enough.
Well, you can't have Margot without Jerry, can you? Yin and yang.
Exactly. Oh, that's cheered my heart.
Yes, there we go. Congratulations, Margot and Jerry.
Oh.
The Surbiton power couple.
They are indeed. They are.
You happy with that result then?
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm really happy with that. I thought that Margot deserved it as the character because I think she's just like a force in The Good Life. But I'm glad that Jerry got recognition as well, because I think
But the more you watch him, he's so good with the subtle comedy, isn't he?
I think that's what surprised me in the rewatch. That's one of the things that surprised me most, how much feeling I had towards Paul Eddington's character of Jerry. It's only through rewatching that I've realised what a great character he actually is.
Yeah, and a great actor, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of time for Paul Eddington. Not going to cry this week.
No, don't cry this week.
That'll be cut out anyway of last week's, trust me. I started getting weepy-eyed. I'm not crying, you're crying. So there we go. That brings us to an end of our deep dive into The Good Life and our first series of this podcast.
Wow.
Big thank you, I think, to anyone who's stuck with us all the way through.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been we've really enjoyed it. It's like 12 months ago since we decided that we were going to do this, and to have actually done it all and had people enjoy it along with us it's lovely. It's fun.
Yeah, 7 months of weekly episodes have gone out, so we're now going to take a little wee break for a while. But we'll be back with another deep dive into another classic British sitcom of the 70s or 80s. Or maybe even 90s, but I think we'll probably stick to the older ones for now, won't we?
Yeah. We've got time. There's all this time.
You can expect us back around June, or possibly before if we have to convene an emergency pod.
There may be one, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited about the prospect of an emergency pod.
Well, we might have to. You never know. Something might happen. It will be like, I need to get this podded.
Yeah. Oh, here's hoping.
If you'd like to suggest what you'd like to see us do in Series 2, you can get in touch with us via many a different method. You've literally got a plethora of choice. You can reach out to us on social media. We are at Sado Podcast on both Twitter and Instagram. We are on Facebook. Just search for Sado Podcast. You can email us at sadopodcast@gmail.com. Contact us through the website where all the episodes are there to listen to. We've also got blogs on there you can listen to. And just let us know if you're going to use social media or Twitter or Instagram. Use the hashtag SadoSeason2 to let us know what you'd like us to cover next, and we'll listen, possibly ignore if we don't like the shows that you suggest.
Get involved though.
We might make it a poll at some point to see if. So by all means, suggest what you'd like to see us deep dive. It's got to be something from the 70s and 80s. It's got to be British. They're our only rules at this point, aren't they, Al?
Yeah, unfortunately.
But in the meantime, just subscribe, tell your friends, leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and that will help us build an audience and reach more people.
We love what we do, and we put quite a bit of time and effort into producing the Sado podcast. If you head on to the website at sado.club, there is a button that you can click if you wish to do so. That you can buy us a coffee, just to say thanks.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that, and it's helps us keep going and keep producing more content. But I think for now, until next time, it's just one last time to say I'll see the next series.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Goodbye. So Tom takes a trip down a tit. No, hang on.
Tom is a tit.
Tom
is that what you're saying?